Hey, welcome back, everybody. Great to see you. Hopefully, we're having a wonderful weekend so far and happy start to December. And it's looking like a very active start to the month. We've got ongoing major lake effect snow, also a bit of some surprise snow, I think, on the way for portions of the Tennessee Valley, maybe even portions of the Carolinas as soon as tomorrow night. We're going to break that down for you. And then we're going to take a look ahead at our next major storm system. This is a pretty potent clipper that could bring notable snow pretty far into the northeast, close to the coastline. I'll tell you who hasn't seen snow yet this year, who could see it out of that. And then after that, also watching some energy that could produce another storm or two over the next 10 days or so. Now, if you're new to the channel, welcome. My name is Gerald. I'm a meteorology major in the second half of my junior year now, at least entering it. At the University of North Carolina, Charlotte, here to give you the latest information on what we're seeing out there. And if you haven't already subscribed, go ahead and do so. Hit that bell for the latest notifications. It's a great way to stay up to date, and you'll be the first to be notified whenever I post an update with the latest model guidance and a breakdown of that guidance. Also, if you enjoy the video, go ahead, smash the like button, comment, let me know where you're watching from, and consider sharing the video with a friend. Alrighty, let's go ahead and dive into things because, again, a lot to discuss today as we continue this very wintry pattern. And I couldn't think of a better time to do it as we're entering kind of the Christmas season here. All right, well, taking a look at our upper level water vapor loop here, you can pretty well see where our two separate jet streams are. Now, we have a polar jet, which is always to kind of the north, and then we have a tropical or subtropical jet, which generally hangs out to the south. Now, actually, that's a great idea. Further on down the road, we can talk about why this forms in a Meteorology in Minutes segment, so I'll have to write that down and remember that for the future. But either way, just know right now that's where these are located, and we're seeing a lot of activity with our polar jet. Our subtropical jet, however, has remained relatively quiet, and that's why a lot of these potential storm systems that we've been hoping for in the southern tier of the country have been kind of difficult to come by. However, we'll see if that can change over the next 10 days or so. But right now, just seeing a lot of flow like this, and that's one of the reasons we're seeing plenty of lake effect on many of these Great Lakes, a high fetch as we call it, just meaning a big distance that the wind is traveling over the lakes, picking up plenty of instability and moisture and then dumping it obviously somewhere else. And you can see that on radar loop as well. A couple places to note here. We've got obviously all the lake effect we've been talking about. We've got what's left of yesterday's clipper working on through Kentucky, portions of West Virginia and Virginia. That's dumping plenty of snow right now for you folks. And then another kind of clipper system beginning to develop up into portions of southern Saskatchewan and into the Dakotas. That's going to swing south, and that is something that has trended a little bit stronger in the near term, and something that again could produce some snowfall in places that maybe you're not expecting it. I'm here in Charlotte, and I'm watching this one like a hawk. Now, I'm not expecting big impacts in places like Charlotte or Raleigh or Greensboro, but we could see some flakes fly, which, considering how boring it's been over the past couple of years, we would take anything. So we'll go ahead and zoom in here. And again, plenty of that lake effect accumulating here into the Tug Hill, back down south towards Buffalo, and then even here not too far from Toronto and into the surrounding areas just off of Lake Huron, getting plenty of snow out of this lake effect up into the northern peninsula or the northern mitten of Michigan rather, and then into the upper peninsula, seeing plenty of snow as well. So nothing has changed out there. And then, like I mentioned, the snow falling into eastern Kentucky, relatively light out here, but definitely noteworthy that we are seeing those flakes fly. And I've seen plenty of pictures out of these areas from yesterday that really were painted white like a winter wonderland. And again, a wonderful kind of way to start the month of December. Now, watches, warnings, advisories out there. Most of the active stuff in the east right now, specifically up and around the Great Lakes, these kind of blue turquoise boxes you're seeing, those are lake effect warnings for heavy snow. We've got winter storm warnings in the pink and winter weather advisories in the purple, and then newly put up winter storm watches for the western shores and the southwestern shores of Michigan here. We are expecting a bit of a change in the wind pattern over the next day or two. The past little bit, it's been very parallel to Lake Ontario and Lake Erie. We're expecting a little bit of a shift further south, so that could get areas into western Michigan more in play, those of you that haven't seen a lot of snow yet. And that's one of the reasons for those newly issued watches, warnings, and advisories. Got winter weather advisories where we're seeing that snow in Kentucky and West Virginia, and then freeze warnings up for the Florida Panhandle and other areas of the Deep South. It has been a very cold couple of mornings. and that is not going anywhere in the near term as this cold pattern really locks into place. And then out west, lucky for you, while we're dealing with all the cold and the stormy activity in the east, you're actually getting a break out west and drying out compared to how your November looked, but that may not last forever. In fact, I guarantee you it won't last forever, so definitely stay tuned for the future. All right, so this little clipper system and kind of what we're going to talk about today in Meteorology in Minutes, it's something that is uptrended a little bit in the models. And if you follow me on Twitter, or I guess X is what they call it now, I was posting about this a lot yesterday. By the way, if you do have Twitter or X and you'd like to follow me, I post a ton on there, meteorology things, and other kind of stupid things as well sometimes, but the link for that is in the description, so check that out. But I was talking about this storm system. Some of the models yesterday were kind of up in this thing a little bit, and here it is on our vorticity map. And in Meteorology Minutes today, we're going to talk about why there even is vorticity here and what makes this a clipper system. Now, you can obviously tell we are seeing these brighter colors here. That's indicating higher levels of positive vorticity. And another little tidbit I'll throw in here is almost all vorticity on Earth is positive. So even kind of down here into portions of Colorado where you're not seeing colors, that's still positive vorticity. The reason for that is the spin of the Earth is in what we consider to be a positive direction. This just happens to be more positive vorticity than average or than kind of limited positive vorticity. So to get positive vorticity, what you need is strong winds right here and weaker winds here, and that creates a spin in this direction, which is cyclonically or positively as we call it. So how are we getting that right now? Well, it all has to do with our upper level wind pattern. You'll notice we have a bit of a jet streak and the jet stream right into here. That's blaring very quick winds. And then where our smaller arrow is up here, these are weaker winds. So that's creating that turn in the atmosphere, and we're getting that vorticity out of it. Now, this little area of vorticity is expected to continue to dive southward over the next day or two. This gets us into tomorrow morning and afternoon. We've got that area of spin over portions of Iowa, and the core of the jet, remember, is right on this side of it. So we're getting those strongest upper level winds over the Dakotas, Nebraska, Iowa, and eventually that continues to dive south, and by tomorrow night, this little jet streak of sorts will be over portions of Tennessee and the Carolinas, and that's when we could get some of that kind of surprise snow flurries, maybe even light to moderate snow showers at times into the region. Now, if we go ahead and look at this and time this out a little bit for you, this is the latest NAM model that ran not long ago. And a couple things to note here. We're going to kind of kill a couple birds with one stone. Notice the lake effect up here, and let me back this up a little bit as well for you so we can see the current snow in Kentucky. Right around this time frame. Model's actually underdoing it a little bit, but to be fair, a lot of this probably is struggling to hit the ground due to some virga. But remember, we've got some snow in that region, and then watch this clipper up here at the same time. So depending on where you're at, watch what part of the map you want here. But I'm going to move this ahead into time. And we get into this afternoon. Obviously, lake effect not going anywhere. Now these bands will shift a little bit in their directionality and their strength will come and go throughout the day. But you'll notice this new clipper beginning to get its act together up into the Dakotas, dropping a quick little burst of snow. Now for you folks up there, this will not be a big deal. The ground is definitely cold enough. This will stick even probably on the pavement. However, you've seen much worse than a little clipper that's going to probably drop a dusting, maybe a couple of inches of snow at the most. We get through overnight tonight. It swings through portions of Iowa, gets back into the St. Louis area, who just saw snow yesterday. You're going to be waking up to some more snow tomorrow morning, likely, in that region, and then getting into Kentucky and portions of Tennessee. This is Monday afternoon. Now, another thing I will also mention is I talked about that shift in the lake effect wind. Check this out into western Michigan. These kind of bands are, instead of flowing like this, our fetch is increasing along the lakes here. We're also getting some help from some friction here to create these singular bands that are going to kind of move down the west coast of Michigan, even into portions of northern Indiana, and then snow also increasing into the Erie area, and you'll notice that snow machine along the Tug Hill beginning to limit as that wind direction, instead of, again, paralleling Lake Ontario here, is now moving more north to south. So kind of another little tidbit there. Very important how the wind is moving along the Great Lakes on who's going to see what. But getting back to this little clipper system now, You'll notice right in the core of this jet streak, see how these isobars are very close? That tells me we have very strong winds aloft, which is producing a little bit of lift, but also means that this thing is absolutely booking it. So whatever limited moisture there is associated with it is not going to drop a lot of snow. But I do think we'll see flakes fly tomorrow afternoon through maybe the Nashville area, southern Kentucky. And then we get into about the time the sun is setting, we've got some flurries or light rain showers into northern Alabama, northern Georgia, and the mountains of North Carolina picking up on some snow. And then check this out, 11 p.m. tomorrow, this little burst of snow beginning into portions of North Carolina, not far from Charlotte, kind of back out towards Albemarle, Monroe County, or Union County into Monroe, I should say. And then even trying to get into the Sandhills towards Fayetteville, and then drying up as it gets towards the coast. And then we get into Tuesday afternoon and we're drying out through the southeast, but we are still seeing a lot of lake effect into the Great Lake region. So let's go ahead and zoom this in a little bit for some folks, because I know you folks into Tennessee and the Carolinas are probably more intrigued about this than others who maybe just saw snow. But here we go. We've got a pretty dry day today. This is this afternoon. A little bit of that clipper left. Again, some snow into eastern Kentucky, southwestern Virginia, maybe even the northern mountains of North Carolina. That kind of dries up. A couple showers could make it over the Appalachia chain, kind of through the Danville area. And I wouldn't even be surprised to see maybe a little bit of graupel or sleet mixing into those. But things remain relatively calm until tomorrow afternoon. Here it is. And this is a pretty good area of snow, folks. This is a nice little shield. Maybe not quite as strong as yesterday's clipper for folks that saw that into Kentucky, but this one's a little bit further south. So maybe Nashville getting in on the snow, portions of Tennessee that didn't see it not long ago. And then that gets into the mountains. And what's happening, folks, is this is moving so quick that the mountains aren't really able to kill it off or wring out all of the moisture in time. And you're getting some snow, maybe some rain snow mix, but honestly, it's pretty cold. So it's going to be really snow, I think. Maybe some graupel mixing in here Monday evening through portions of the North Carolina foothills. And by the time we get into overnight, this isn't even that late. This is probably 7, 8, 9 p.m. We've got snow showers in Charlotte, the Triad, up the I-85 corridor, some snow showers breaking out into northwestern Georgia. And then all of that shield of precipitation works into the Sandhills by kind of closer to the midnight hour, and then drying up as it gets towards the Wilmington area. So US Highway 74 corridor here is where I'm watching for the highest chance of this, I think. And this would not be a big deal by any means, but we could see some brief accumulations out of it in that time frame. Now, I think best case scenario is half an inch here if you're outside of the mountains. And you can kind of see that with our latest model guidance. This is the European, and I'll mention the European was not on board with the GFS by any means until kind of last night and this morning. And you'll notice where it's showing that some of that snow a little bit further north, not so much into Tennessee, but Kentucky, dusting to an inch, probably about an inch into the higher terrains of North Carolina. And then this other little area showing up of dusting to half an inch from Charlotte, Albemarle, kind of Uwharrie National Forest, back down towards the Florence, South Carolina area and into Fayetteville. Now, this is just one model run. I'll tell you, I would be surprised if anybody picks up on half an inch. In fact, I would be happy, and most of you probably would be too, if we could just get some flakes to fly into the first place to kind of kick off December here. Canadian model, you'll notice higher totals back towards Tennessee, lesser totals into the Carolinas. GFS, higher totals back towards Tennessee, lesser totals into the Carolinas, which is interesting because the GFS was more on kind of picking up the Carolina snow in the first place and then dropped it this morning. Icon model, you get the idea, folks. As I move this ahead through model after model after model, you get the point here. Higher chance of snow back towards Tennessee and Kentucky, but potentially some of those flurries and flakes breaking containment, as we say, and getting into the Charlotte area and then back down the US 74 corridor towards Fayetteville. I will mention, though, the track of this will shift a little. These clippers are very tough to get the exact track down. So this could shift north a little bit towards the Triad and Raleigh, could shift south a little bit towards the upstate and Columbia. Either way, I think we're going to be cold enough that won't be a problem. Moisture will be an issue. And if we kind of take a look at the mean here, if we put everything together, you can see the path of that clipper pretty well. Probably a dusting to an inch up into the Dakotas, all the way back down into Iowa. You're noticing a swath here, though, of higher snowfall totals into the St. Louis area. Let's zoom this in. The mean just south of St. Louis from all of our models is in that 2-inch range. The kind of 25 percentile or the lowest total of the lowest 25th percent of models, yeah, not a lot of snow. But then you crank it up to the highest 75% of models, or freeze that, let me get back to the mean here. You'll see that, and then we go to the 75th percentile, and you're thinking, well, why is the 75th percentile less than the mean? Just the way statistics work here. But either way, you'll notice a couple highlights on who I think has the highest chance of seeing accumulating snowfall: the St. Louis area, and then the mountains of North Carolina. But we bump this up into the highest percentile of the models, and this is when kind of that boom scenario happens. Best case scenario, I think 6 inches of snow is overdoing it, but best case, maybe 3, 4, 5 inches of snow. Again, in some of the places that just saw it in and around St. Louis, could pick up on a dusting to an inch or two into the Nashville area, and then into the Carolinas. That's when, best case scenario, maybe we pass the dusting, get up towards half an inch in spots around the Charlotte area, kind of really right in the area between Charlotte, Greensboro, Raleigh, and Fayetteville, through Asheboro, Sanford, and down the US 74 corridor. So it's an interesting setup for sure. Not a guarantee that we're going to see significant snow. And I think this is the best way to look at it. The probability of, let's just say, flakes flying where you're at in this part of the country, pretty high up through St. Louis. I say pretty high, it's a 47% chance, so not bad. And then, highest up in the mountains of North Carolina, and then, 20% chance-ish into the Charlotte area. Another thing I kind of want to hit home with this is you'll notice the uncertainty in the models. I showed you this, highest percentile, and we've got some models saying half a foot of snow near St. Louis, and then I show you this map, and you're saying, okay, yet there's only less than 50% chance of flakes even flying. So the models are struggling with this, and they normally do with these clipper systems. Unfortunately, it's one of those you kind of have to nowcast at things. But the models did increase a little bit over the past 36 hours or so. So that leads me to believe we're trending in the right direction towards some of these higher end solutions. I'm not forecasting half a foot of snow in St. Louis, but I do think a couple inches at most, maybe 2 or 3 as of right now at least. And then I do see some flakes making it over the mountain chain and getting into North Carolina, into the Charlotte area. Now, probably not accumulating too much, but something that definitely would be exciting for you folks in and around that area, including myself, I guess. All right, so what's coming on down the pipeline? That was maybe fun little surprise snow, and also, actually, I completely forgot to talk about the lake effect snow. Let me bring this back up. Sorry, folks. This is snow over the next, let me move this to 72 hours. The mean of models, through the next 72 hours or so. You'll notice places that are going to be picking up a lot of snow up here. Down into Erie, south of Buffalo, north of Cleveland. The Tug Hill going to see some more snow. Most of that falling today, though, and then calming down through kind of the 2 or 3 day time frame. And that's whenever that wind shift picks up more snow into western Michigan here. We're talking half a foot to a foot in spots. So plenty of lake effects still on the way. I did not mean to forget you. Sorry, got a little excited about the southern snow chances there. And we've been talking about so much lake effect, I kind of slipped my mind. All right, so now let's talk about the long range a little bit and kind of discuss what's coming on down the pipeline. And I think we've still got an active first 10 days of December or so, and it's all due to this Siberian Express that is continuing. Now, we currently have a big pocket of cold air over the east. Trust me, I can feel it. You can feel it. We all know it's there. That will moderate a little bit going into kind of the Wednesday, Thursday timeframe. Now, still very cold mornings, but I think we're going to warm up a little bit more in the afternoons before another shot of cold Arctic air slips southward. Here it is. This is Wednesday afternoon, that next block of below average temperatures moving down into the upper sections of the Midwest and then getting into portions of the Northeast by Wednesday afternoon. That does become the potential for our next storm. And then after that, you'll notice another area of kind of some blue working in the 7 to 10 day time frame. And then we go further out. And this is when I think we have another potential for another storm. So the storm train is not slowing down, but this is about 10 days from now, another big trough dipping down into the east on the GFS ensembles here. This once again could produce a storm. Now, I'll tell you, the models are definitely struggling in the long run. We do feel pretty good about our next clipper system, and that could bring some snow to folks in the Northeast that haven't seen it so far this year. And you can see that even on our vorticity map here. As I kind of reload the page, here comes our little clipper. That's that little bright purple you see show up. And then our next pronounced clipper system, or our next big dip in the jet stream and big trough moving through. This is Wednesday into Thursday. You'll notice all of this energy flying around the northeast. That we will talk about. And then after that, more little pieces of energy. And this is what we need to watch, folks. Areas like this, these are parts of the polar jet stream dipping down. But our Baja low and our subtropical jet still to the south. So can any of these merge together will be the question. And if they can, that will bring the potential for a much larger storm system. But right now, the model's struggling to do so. The GFS in the 10-day time frame finally does that. We get a big piece of the polar jet to dip down here. And then that finally kind of merges with the subtropical jet. We see some pretty crazy stuff because of it. I'll show you that. But the GFS has been doing this. We've seen phantom 10-day ghost storms over the past couple of days. So the real question is, can anything actually stick? We take a look at the European and its energy it's got flying around. Same story. There's the clipper for the next day or two. And then our next big pronounced storm looks very similar to the GFS. So feeling confident about that one. And then after the fact, like I said, we've got other little areas of vorticity diving southward across. Well, also, I cannot draw an arrow to save my life. Sorry. I should probably go a little slower here. Pieces of energy diving southward across the country, kind of from the Dakotas into the Mississippi or into the Tennessee and Ohio Valley. And the question is, can any of these connect? The European also connects the energy, but does it in a different way about 10 days from now. And has a much warmer storm system, as it's more of a subtropical jet kind of promoting it compared to the polar jet. And then you'll see that again on the models here. But let's go ahead and talk about it. Let's skip ahead to, let's skip ahead to our next important storm system. That's this big clipper. This is Wednesday morning, Tuesday night here, working down through portions of Canada into the Midwestern United States, getting towards the Northeast into that time frame. And this will once again create some more lake-enhanced snowfall, so that's not going anywhere, but then eventually gets into the Northeast. This is Thursday morning on the European, and we've got a pretty good amount of snow showers here working through from West Virginia northbound. And I'll tell you, we've got a lot of cold air in place, so I would not be surprised to see snow make it to the I-95 corridor out of this. The European bringing plenty of moderate snow showers throughout the day, and it's been so cold it will stick for sure. As all of that works on through during your Thursday afternoon and then into the weekend. After that, a little bit of lull. Here comes the next little clipper system. This is the GFS, by the way. I might have said this was the European. This was the GFS. That's my bad. Here comes the next system right after that. This is less than a week from now. This is next Friday into Saturday, another potent one. This one as well could bring some snow to some folks who haven't seen it yet. This one bringing snow to Ohio and through the I-95 corridor. Again, Philadelphia up through New York City, Boston, we've yet to see snow. Both of these clippers, I think, have the chance to do it. The GFS bringing snow in and around both locations with both of those. And then another little clipper system around 7-8 days. And then this is when the GFS gets a little bit more exciting towards 10 days out. We finally get that polar energy to dive well south, further west, giving it time to kind of crank up a little bit. And then we get a southern slider snowstorm on the GFS right around 10 days from now. And then that kind of rides up the coast. So will that happen? Your guess is as good as mine, but we are feeling confident on the first clipper or two. The European showing the same thing here. Here it comes diving out of the north, getting into the northeast and bringing snow. Places like Boston, some snow showers, maybe rain showers into Connecticut, Rhode Island, New York City through Long Island. Seeing some of those flakes potentially flying by the second half of this coming work week. The European after that bringing another little clipper system here. North to south, that one also tries to bring some snow to the I-95 corridor, but really higher chances into the interior northeast with both of these clippers, but higher than what we've seen percent chance-wise through the kind of coastal cities of the northeast. And something we need to watch for as well, you'll notice these little clippers on the European. This one not very strong, but the one that we're seeing in the Carolinas tomorrow didn't look very strong at this range either, and now looks stronger. Another thing we'll have to watch for is can one of these maybe crank up along the coast a little bit and bring some back-end snowfall? That's another potential. So really a lot of questions still to answer. And then we enter the long run, and here's the European with that storm in about 10 days. Like I said, a bit warmer on this model, maybe not quite as exciting as the GFS. All right, we're going to skip that map. That one is not quite as important. All right, so chances of snowfall over a 72-hour period of at least an inch. Let's kind of take a look at what the models are showing with that next clipper system. We'll move this ahead into time, and here we go. This is, more than an inch of snow per chance of that happening. Sorry, I'm starting to lose steam a little bit here. Into the northeast, high chance into the interior northeast through New York State, up into northern portions of Pennsylvania. But let's check the I-95 corridor. Philadelphia, not very high with this first system. New York City, not very high with this first system. But you get up towards Connecticut, Boston, northern Rhode Island, and much of Massachusetts, a much higher chance, I think, that we see some snow accumulate out of this first system. And if I kind of continue this ahead into time a little bit, looking at some of the same areas, we will definitely do that. In fact, let me make sure you can actually see what I'm talking about. The key there on the right-hand side of your screen. Again, this is the first clipper system that swings on through, and then we get another kind of burst of some snow chances a little bit later on down the road in that 7 to 10 day time frame through some of these same areas, if we can get more of these clippers to work on through. And I think we will. The bigger question is, can we get some energy to connect to the coast? And that's what we really want for snowfall chances to increase into the Philadelphia area, up through New York City, Bridgeport, Providence, and Boston. These clippers, like I said, will bring the chance, but you really want something to kind of phase at the coast here. You want a storm to track down like this and then phase right here along the coast and then ride up the coast. That would be a much more favorable track for snowfall. Right now, that doesn't look like a super high probability event, but nonetheless will be possible. Let's take a look at our model's projected snowfall. This is over the next 10 days, just to give you an idea of who has the highest chance of seeing that snow. First, we'll start with the European, and you'll notice the path of that jet stream is not hard to find. We've got a very clear kind of bias here up through Canada and into the Great Lakes region, and then some of that snow getting close to the I-95 corridor on the European. The Canadian model, a little less excited about snow along I-95, but has plenty of lake effect and even some snow into the Ohio Valley over the next 10 days. And then the GFS over the next 10 days, a little bit more snow crazy and showing that kind of interesting southern solution with one of the models, and then that gets pulled up and brings some snow into the northeast. Well, that storm specifically doesn't, but either way, it's still showing more snow on the GFS here, even through Philadelphia and New York City and into the Boston area. We put all this together. What's the blended models say? I think this is a pretty good bet to use right now. Plenty of lake effect over the next 10 days, even some snow into the northeast. A good mean here, about 3 or 4 inches through Boston, through northern Connecticut, northern New Jersey, even potentially seeing some snow. A mean of about an inch over Philadelphia and New York City through the next 10 days. So a lot of things to iron out here for sure. We'll definitely keep you up to date. But one thing I do want to note that it's important for winter weather fans in the East. See all the snow falling up here? This might be annoying right now that you're not seeing it. But it is very helpful to us because this is going to increase the snowpack, and later on during the year, it's going to make it easier to get cold air south towards Virginia, the Carolinas, and other areas that are struggling to get snow right now. The more it snows to the north early in the season, the more that's going to help us. So we'll definitely root for that right now. And then final thing we'll talk about are temperatures. Obviously a cold weekend. It's going to be no different through the week ahead, but you will note this is kind of this coming Wednesday afternoon and evening, still below average, but moderating a little bit before our next big shot of cold air with that next clipper system. And that hangs around through the rest of this coming week. And then there are signs maybe past 10 days into the 15-day time frame, we might once again warm up towards the middle of the month, and we'll definitely watch the trend on that. Alrighty, folks, that's all I got for you here on this Sunday. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Again, if you haven't already subscribed, go ahead and do so. Like the video and comment. Let me know where you're watching from. Alrighty, have a great rest of your day. Stay safe, and I'll see you all tomorrow.